Did you know that most women during the Revolutionary War stayed home and took care of the farm or family business while their husband was off at war? Women had to learn new skills and take on extra work during this difficult time in history. My name is Hannah York, and today I'm going to tell you about some of the inspiring women who were involved in the Revolutionary War. Molly Pitcher was a nickname used by soldiers for the women who carried water out to the battlefields. The two most famous women that carried this nickname were Mary Ludwig Hayes and Margaret Corbin. First, let's talk a little bit about Mary. Mary was born on October 13, 1754, and passed away on January 22, 1832. During the Battle of Monmouth, Mary was working as a water carrier when her husband was wounded. After countless hours of watching her husband in the war, Mary also knew how to load a cannon and was able to take over for her husband when he got injured. Next, let's take a look at Margaret Corbin. Margaret was born on November 12, 1751, and passed away on January 16, 1800. Margaret was carrying water for the cannons at the Battle of Fort Washington in New York when her husband was killed. She also knew how to fire a cannon and quickly took over for her husband. Later on to battle, Margaret came under heavy fire and her arm unfortunately got wounded. Let's take a look at some fun facts about Molly Pitcher. You may be wondering, where did the name Molly Pitcher come from? Well, the name Molly was often used as a nickname for Mary. And Pitcher came from the pitchers they used to carry the water to the soldiers during the war. George Washington, who was our first president of the United States, personally thanked Mary Hayes for her bravery during the war. Margaret Corbin was the first woman in the U.S. to earn a military pension, also known as a paycheck, for her service in the war. The cannons that were used during the war had to be constantly cooled down with fresh water after each use because they were so hot. And lastly, Margaret, who was wounded during the war, her arm never healed right after the war and she had difficulty using it for the remainder of her life. So now that we've learned a few things about Molly Pitcher and her significance in history, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Firstly, according to the lesson, what weapon did Molly Pitcher use in battle? Secondly, who was the first woman to earn a military pension in the U.S.? This pension is also known as a paycheck. I'd like to thank you all for watching this short lesson on Molly Pitcher and the significant role she made in our nation's history.